First, nobody present in the chamber, I'm not going to suspend before we go on to the next item of business. So we will move straight to the 10-minute rule motion. I call Mr. David Davis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I commend your efficiency in that respect. Madam Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to place a duty on universities to promote freedom of speech, to make provision for fining universities that do not comply with that duty and for connected purposes. The principal reason that our kingdom is a great nation can be encompassed in one word: freedom. Freedom of action, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought, freedom of belief, freedom of speech, freedom under the law. And of all these freedoms, the most precious is freedom of speech. It's been fundamental to the development of our culture, our society, our literature, our science, and our economy. Indeed, our national wealth today owes more to the free exchange of ideas than to the exchange of goods. Freedom of speech is fundamental to everything we have, everything we are, and everything we stand for. Over 300 years ago, it was this Parliament that enshrined our right to freedom of speech in law. The 1689 Bill of Rights became a symbol of hope for the rights of people everywhere throughout the globe. Since then, peoples and democracies the world over have followed our example. When representatives of the globe gathered in 1948, in the aftermath of unthinkable destruction and despair, we as one people, one human race, said never again. Fundamental to this united course of humanity was Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It states, and I quote, "Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers." Yet today, that is under threat. And it's under threat in the very institutions where it should be most treasured, our universities. Freedom of speech only matters when it's controversial, when it's challenging. That's why the greatest characterization of free speech is that attributed to Voltaire by his biographer, who said, "I may disagree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it." In one version, it was notably, "I may detest what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it." Voltaire understood that creativity and progress in a society depend upon acts of intellectual rebellion, of dissent, of disagreement, of controversy, no matter how uncomfortable. But today, the cancel culture movement think that it's reasonable to obliterate the views of people they disagree with, rather than challenging them in open debate. They're wrong. Why? Because the unwillingness to hear uncomfortable opinion, the refusal of platforms to people you disagree with, is damaging to us all. Imagine if their censorious predecessors in the established churches had been successful in their attempt to suppress Galileo and Darwin. People would still believe the earth was the centre of the universe, or that the human species was created on the sixth day from clay. Of course, the ideas were ridiculous, but such falsehoods were only conquered through the freedom to speak truth to power, to shine light in the dark, the ability to advocate for science and reason. Today, there is a corrosive trend in our universities that aims to prevent anybody airing ideas that groups disagree with or would be offended by. And let's be clear, this is not about protecting delicate sensibilities from offence. It's about censorship. We can protect your own sensibilities by not going to the speech. After all, nobody is compelled to listen. But when you either explicitly or indirectly, no platform, Amber Rudd, Germaine Greer, Peter Tatchell, Peter Hitchens and others, you're not protecting yourself. You are denying others the right to hear these people and even perhaps to challenge what they say. Let us repeat our mind experiment, our conjecture in a modern context. Germaine Greer wrote the pivotal book on feminism and was its most powerful and effective advocate. Peter Tatchell was, and is, unbelievably brave and very effective campaigner on gay rights and a host of civil freedoms. Peter Hitchens is a professional iconoclast who has challenged overmighty government of all colours through the decades. Imagine again what would have happened if they and their allies had been prevented from pursuing their causes in the public domain. We'd have a very different society today, Madam Speaker and Madam Deputy Speaker, and not a better one. Yeah. The chilling effect on free speech would be disastrous, and the impact on academic freedom would be catastrophic. Its cost is already too high. And before I leave the subject, what about Amber Rudd? She was no platform for her connection to the Windrush and the government's handling of the scandal. Yet this was a whole year after she'd been explicitly cleared by an investigation which found she'd not been supported as she should be by the Home Office. In her case, it was not just speech denied, it was justice denied. Today, views expressed in a recent survey commissioned by Britain's biggest university academic union show Britain as having the second lowest level of academic freedom in all of Europe. And just last month, a report by Civitas found that more than a third of our universities imposed severe restrictions on freedom of speech, including, I'm ashamed to say, Oxford, Cambridge and St Andrews. The fact is, a number of our international allies today protect freedom of speech much better than we do. Some have it specifically written into their country's constitution. Others put it explicitly into laws. Ireland, for example, has the 1997 Universities Act, which protects, and I quote, the freedom within the law in teaching, research and any other activities either in or outside the university to question and test received wisdom, to put forward new ideas and to state controversial or unpopular opinions. While in the UK we theoretically have laws protecting freedom of speech, in practice they're buried in education acts, resulting in the protections not being widely known and universities not always upholding their duties. That's why I'm proposing this bill. So what does the bill set out to do? It would in effect make universities responsible for upholding free speech throughout their campuses. Freedom of speech is not, of course, absolute. With rights come responsibilities, so speech that was illegal would, of course, be forbidden. Incitement to violence, for example. But speech that's merely unpopular with any sector of the university would not be proscribed. Controversial views would not be proscribed. The challenging of established positions would not be proscribed. Whilst we may not agree, whilst we may not approve of what's being said, the right to free speech is the foundation stone of our democracy. To stand idly by while this foundation is being eroded is a dereliction of our duty. This bill makes it the absolute duty of every university authority to protect that most fundamental of our freedoms, the right to free speech. I beg to move.
The question is, will the Right Honourable Member have leave to bring in the bill? As many as that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Madam Deputy Speaker, Robert Halfon, Esther McVeigh, Chris Green, Mrs Heather Wheeler, Ben Bradley, James Grundy, Andrew Lewis, Craig McKinley, James Sunderland, Lee Anderson, Philip Davis and myself, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Mr David Davis.
Freedom of Speech Universities Bill.
Second reading what day?
Tomorrow.